Hi, everyone. Today we have a very special guest, Julie Reisler, with us. So, Julie Reisler is a life designer. She's a TV host. She's the next level facilitator and global brand ambassador. She's also the founder and CEO of the Empowered Living, a life design and personal development company. Julie facilitates corporate retreats, workshops, masterminds, and summits to help participants increase engagement, confidence, working on their strengths, and take their career and life to the next level. Julie is also a really, really awesome author of the book series called Get a PhD in You. She's a multi-time TEDx speaker and host of the USU podcast. And she's a meditation teacher on the popular app Insight Timer with over 110,000 downloads. So Julie has a master's degree in coaching and more than 12 certifications in leadership, mindset, and well-being. And Julie is also on the faculty at Georgetown University in their coaching program. She's passionate about helping you to be your USU so you can up-level your life at work and beyond. So to learn more from Julie, you can go to juliereisler.com. And today we are going to talk about, Julie has a lot of knowledge in health and wellness. So today we wanted to talk about emotional eating. So welcome, Julie. It's so awesome to have you here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This is so fun. And I know we've been so excited to do this. So this is a really important topic to me. So I'm really excited to just dive in with you.
Awesome. So Julie, can you please start with sharing your story about how you got started on your health journey?
Yeah, I think the easiest place to start, like this could be a much longer conversation, but what I would say is, I really didn't realize the power that food has, meaning synonymous. It doesn't look like a drug. It doesn't look like alcohol or, heroin or something, or overspending, but it really, for me in my life, has triggered similar, what I know scientifically, it triggers the same place in your brain, that reward center. And I had been using food really to handle much of life's ups and downs, everything. And I grew up in a family with a lot of love, but also where food was love. A lot of people would remark when they came over, there was enough food for like 50 and there were 6 of us, 4 of us, but maybe 2 friends were. A lot of food. My, dad would send me food in college. So, for me, the way that it really came to a halt was, it's about 15 years ago, I was in a job that was just not feeling fulfilling or feeding my soul anymore. I was eating, binging, secretly eating, stealing food out of the work refrigerator, that kind of thing. And I remember feeling like I really was just at such a bottom that, thank goodness, we had a family friend who said, you might want to get some help. Here's a support group. And I just remember driving to that support group, that meeting, that first night. This was in May of 2003. And I'll never forget, like, I really considered driving into a tree versus going to the meeting. I was in such a bad place. And the thing is, it was all internal. No one would have a clue. You wouldn't look at me and know this. Even weight wise, maybe a little bit, but it was more of an internal battle. And thankfully for me to start seeing there are other people of all shapes and sizes, backgrounds, ethnicities, genders dealing with, this addiction or food obsession. I just got myself very much into this support group. And then out of that came this deep self-work and excavation of myself. And that really has kind of catapulted and started this very important it's super important for me to help others in this area in as many ways as I can, because it's not perfect. I just had an emotional eating experience last night. And the thing is today is I know how to be loving to myself. I know what to do to be loving. I've trained myself because I really believe that is the answer. So it's going to happen. It's not perfect for me, and I've learned to say loving things. I've just learned to deal with it in a different way. And that's a miracle. It's a miracle to be to fit in, to be a size that I feel comfortable in, to feel healthy, but to generally not use food to deal with emotions. So for me to be able to help others around this is a topic I feel really strongly about. And I do think, I'll just say this really quickly. I recently interviewed the leading expert on being an empath on my podcast, Dr. Judith Orloff. And she has a book all about surviving, the survival guide as an empath. Empaths are people that feel very, very strongly, can take on others' emotions, intuitive. I'm definitely one of those. And I didn't realize this. Many of us who are empaths turn to food, because what food does is it numbs you from feeling your feelings. It numbs you from having to experience real life and color. So it was helpful to understand that it is a real thing. And just thought I would add that, because it's been last couple of months I've been really looking at, wow, I just have a deeper compassion for myself and all of us who've struggled with food addiction.
Yeah, wow, that's powerful. And you also used to run a program called Hungry for More, right?
Yeah, so I started to look at, like, what has helped me? What has helped me in addition to support groups? What has helped me? What do I use daily? What are the tools? So the first thing I did was I created actually like a short documentary. It's really just a big long share about my story. I put it out there. I think it's actually still on YouTube. I just put it out there to share with people that they're not alone. That really was the idea. Just so others who struggled can feel like, oh, okay, here's this woman I would never know had this, and I too have struggled. So, and from that, it's funny, in my book there's a chapter called Hungry for More, and I started to write about, this is not just I wish I could eat less. This is like, there's much deeper aspects to this. I believe there's the whole, there's the idea of self-love, and how do we nourish ourselves, and how do we do that in a way that's loving, with food, with thoughts. And so from that, I was like, I need to go deeper. And I created a course for it. So I have an online course. And then I actually created a 10-day audio course. That's on Insight Timer. And I think it's like $5. And I just wanted to give people a way to listen and to apply and to understand that this is not just to, like, oh, it's a bad habit. Like, there's deeper roots to it. But I created what I call the 6 H's of hunger. It really looks at, like, what are we hungry for? The one that I think is the most important, if when in doubt and you forget all of them, which happens to me all the time, even though I created them, is heart hunger. What is my heart hungry for? What do I feel like I'm needing in my life right now around connection, around love? I just think in the end, typically what it is I'm looking for is not in a box or bag or the fridge. It's connection to myself, to other human beings, to animals, to plants, to the earth, whatever, something. So that's where that came from.
That's awesome. So what does emotional eating mean to you? Like, what does it mean? How would you describe that?
Yeah. For me today, so, it's interesting. Part of not expressing my feelings, I remarried. I have 2 children. I ended a marriage, a really good person. I knew it was not the best fit for me. And that was very stressful. And I definitely had abused food for a lot of my life. So I'll get to the question, but part of what happened was my thyroid stopped working with all the different stress. And I believe it's connected to my voice and connected to my body and how I was eating. And I started this journey around eating to love my body and nourish my body. And that led me into this whole way of eating that some might call restrictive, but for me, it feels very loving. And so emotional eating, it's not necessarily what I'm eating. So I don't eat dairy today, for example. I may not ever eat dairy again. But if I'm eating, a plate of beans or a salad, and I'm eating in huge quantity, and I'm eating it really fast, and it feels like I'm trying to stuff something away or down, or avoid a feeling, for me, that's emotional eating. Anytime I turn to food, which by the way, I have these thoughts all the time. Like some days it's quiet in my mind and body. Yesterday and today, it was not quiet. I don't know if it's like prep for this conversation, but it was loud. I've just learned tools to use. Like my head will say things like, "Oh, you really should go stop at that organic store and get those organic chips," or you really could use another you know, whatever, fruit, even if I don't need it, even if I'm not hungry. So for me, emotional eating is when you're not listening to that natural cellular hunger, and you're reaching for something in the form of food to satiate a deeper craving that cannot be satiated by food.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've explained that so well, and I can so relate. Like there are times when I just know that I really don't need to eat this thing, and
Right.
I'll just be like, and it's so true. Like now I can really see that there are times when I'm really stressed out, I would just reach out for all kinds of things, and I'll be like, oh, but it's organic or it's whatever. But then there's like large amounts that are being consumed, and obviously it doesn't show, so it's not like I'm putting on a whole lot of weight, but at the same time it makes me feel absolutely you know just really disgusting. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Well, it's like if you put in too much gas into your car tank, what would happen is it would spill over, it'd spill in possibly like where it shouldn't go. So, for me, there's like a physiological component to overeating and eating emotionally. There's a mental, there's an emotional. I like to run it through the filter of what is the most loving thing I can do for my body. And actually, part of what I've done is really developed a very in tune intuition. So getting like what feels right for my body, that takes practice. For a long time I was like, I have no idea, but if you start to listen, like if you go, if you, for example, if you're at someone's house for dinner and there's, you can get a sense, if you hold up the dish, you usually can feel not what your head tells you but what your body tells you. I had this recently. I really wanted to eat something that I know, because I've done a lot of research, does not work for me. And like, for example, and this is what I had last night. It's hard for me to eat pasta, even like chickpea pasta, quinoa pasta. It does not matter. Gluten-free pasta, doesn't matter. Something about it is very, very addictive. It makes me want to eat more and more and more. And I think because I ate it a lot growing up. And the other day there was a really beautiful dish, and it had pasta in it. It was gluten-free. It was all the things I would eat, but I could feel, no, it's not a good idea. That's not as loving for me. I'm not bad if I eat it. So that's the thing. You're never bad. It's just, I really think the more we listen, the more we can hear, oh, my body wants this. The way I see it too, Samar, is that I feel like, we have this incredible, holy, sacred, you could call it a temple, you could call it whatever you want to call it. There's something physical that our soul, our spirit is living in. And I guess my interest recently has been, how can I honor this sacred physicality that I'm living in, and how can I honor it so it's here as long as possible? Because that really is, what I think Gandhi that said, your health is your wealth. So honoring that, loving that, that's a very different place than coming from shame and stuffing yourself. Compassion, I think, is kind of the elixir to it all.
yeah, that's so true. I remember like when I first started on my health journey, and I like had to, because I'm intolerant to dairy, gluten, and refined sugar, and I had to cut all of those out. I was so disconnected. Like over time I've developed this connection myself. Like now sometimes when I bring a dish closer to me, I can actually feel it. And I, at that time, if someone had told me that you could do that, I would have not believed anything about that. But it's like, I think when you start to really listen to your body, it just becomes like a fine-tuning system where it's like you can just hear. Like what I feel now is like if I bring say anything that has gluten in it, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can just have it, I'll instantly in my body for a few seconds have that sensation of what's going to happen afterwards, like the symptoms I usually get from eating gluten. So it's
Really.
really interesting.
So interesting. And I think if we can do it as observers, right? Observing, you're not judging. I think where I get into trouble is when I start judging. And that's really been, whew, I'm not 100% there, but I'll tell you, it's much better today because I've worked on that. So even if you do eat something that you feel is not the best for your body, even if whatever's going on, just try to be loving, compassionate, not judge it. Because for me, that can get me right back into the overeating cycle.
Yeah, because I think when we're just making ourselves wrong, it's like it just keeps spiraling and it just increases that stress just that much
Yeah.
more.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's no stopping it.
100%. It's absolutely totally agreed. Yeah.
So what are some strategies that people can use if they're really dealing with emotional eating, and how can they get started? What is your advice on that?
So it's really interesting. I would have had the same answer after these last few days. I just finished a training in Reiki, which is all about hands-on healing using energy. We all are equipped to do that. And one of the things I've always done and believed in, I love this simple, quick connection is just, putting your hand on your heart. Putting your hand on your heart is a phenomenal way. There's so much research. If you look at anything with heart math, there's so much research about your connection to your heart and feeling your heartbeat and literally the energy from your hand to your heart. So one of the things I like to do, I was doing it today driving home. I was like, okay, hand to my heart, both hands. I'm just going to pause and connect. By the way, taking that 5-second, 10-second pause, just that pause, if you're not into putting your hand on your heart, you could also, put your hands in a prayer position, open-handed. I like the physicality of doing something. This open-handed is great for kind of like receiving, openness, gratitude, just help, surrender, like, I don't know what to do, take a moment. But that pause time is very important. That was the part that I was really struggled with in the past. I had a hard time pausing. So pausing, and I think really, really asking yourself, what does my heart need right now? What do I really need? Am I hungry? If I'm hungry, what would be loving to eat and how to nourish my body? If I'm not hungry, it's almost like a, flow chart. If it's not hungry, go here. If you're hungry, okay, find something. If you're not hungry, what's something you might want to even write a list? I usually have clients do this, write a list of all the different things you can do or ways to be with yourself that are not involving food. So it might be meditating, it might be sitting and journaling. I often call people. I might watch an inspirational video. If you can take a bath, if you can do self-care. But I think really getting, it's that pausing and finding something else to do that's going to fulfill you, that's not food.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's such useful. It's a very simple thing, but I think that can make a huge difference. Because I know, like, I'm definitely going to use that, because I know when I'm in that spiral, when I'm just like, I just need like something to eat and I need a big amount of food. It's like in that moment, if I could just stop and just breathe, I think
Yeah.
that would be, yeah, I think that can make a huge difference.
Here's the other thing. This is kind of a mind flip, but if you do end up choosing to eat because you're hungry, or you choose to eat anyhow because you give in, not give in, but you end up eating from that craving, something you can still do is to kind of like that, with Reiki, it's all about your hand energy. You could put your hands over your food. You could just send healing vibes or good vibes to it, or just ask for it to nourish you. There's so much connection between your thoughts, our thoughts and what we're saying and doing, and how we're processing what we're eating and what we're thinking and doing and saying. So, if you're going to have that, make it an experience where it's nourishing. I did that last night. I was like, okay, all right, it looks like I'm going to have this pasta. So I'm going to have it. I'm going to have my vegetables. I'm going to like kind of bless it in my own way and just bring the vibration up of it. So it's going to at least nourish me. And it felt very different than just eating it quickly.
That's amazing.
Just
It's so awesome.
little shift. Yeah, it made a big
Yeah,
difference.
that's awesome. Okay, so well, how do you keep yourself motivated every day to stay on top of your health? And I know, like, you are creating so much, and I can just imagine you must be so busy and all of that stuff. And it's so easy when we are in that sort of loop to just be like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I don't have time for this and I don't have time to like stop and all of that stuff. So how do
Right.
you keep yourself motivated to
Right.
still make sure that you are giving this a priority?
Well, I think it's a daily choice. I would say having this diagnosis with my thyroid, which is mine is Hashimoto's, which is underactive thyroid, was a huge wake up call. The blessing is that when I don't get enough sleep, if I don't take care of myself, if I'm not eating a certain way, I feel it, and I don't. It really drains my energy. It affects my joints. Like it's actually I see it mainly as a gift because it's this barometer of how I'm caring for myself. So for me, I've just decided, like, I think from the different things I've gone through and moved through and transformed, I feel very, very purposeful and passionate about being as the most amount of making the most amount of impact I can in the world for as long as I can while I'm here, and to be of service. Especially around well-being and food and taking care of yourself, and especially for women. And like, I just feel like it's my mandate. I see it as like a divine, appointment contract. So to do that, I got to have energy and I got to feel good. And so it's kind of become non-negotiable, getting up, getting enough rest, which is not perfect, meditating, which some mornings when I'm rushing my kids to school is very short and limited. I'm going to start adding my Reiki practice, which is cool. I'll tell you the truth, I didn't get to exercise this weekend, which does not feel great. And it's like, okay, move right into that movement tomorrow. That's what's important, is to move right back into it. I can do some stretching tonight. It's not about perfection. I don't believe anything is about perfection, but for me, it is having those pillars. So meditation, movement, mindful eating, those are kind of the non-negotiable. Sleep. And then from there, I'm not perfect at it, but trying to manage being a business owner, entrepreneur, and having children, it can be a lot.
Yeah.
Self-care is crucial because I can't do any of it if I don't feel the energy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, things can just get so busy, and with children it's even more so.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
And I love what you just said about, actually seeing it as a gift. Like for me, when I first learned about, my intolerances to dairy, gluten, and sugar, I was kind of like, oh my God, like that's the only things I used to eat all the time. Like I used to love having cakes and all of that stuff. But at some point, I just realized that every single person in my family is diabetic. And
mm,
this is a gift, because if this didn't come up,
yeah.
I will not have any motivation to actually stop it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so crucial to see like the things that we deal with, to actually see them as a gift, that this is here because there's a lesson for me to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
So that's awesome. So what would you suggest someone, like, if someone is in that negative spiral and they are in that whole, eating spiral, and I feel like sometimes when I'm working with people, they deal with a lot of like self-hatred, and there's a lot of beating yourself up that comes up, that, oh my God, I'm so, like, I can't stop myself. I can't stop this, and something like that. So what
Right.
would you suggest someone that's really dealing with that spiral?
I think what's important is to try to get out of it as ahead of it as you can. That doesn't always happen. Um, I think having a support group or those around you that can hold your highest light for you, that are people you can call dear friends, that you can say, I'm in this spiral. So having that support, I think having, whether it's a coach or somebody in that, or counselor or healer, someone you're working with, that you can go to and establish relationship. I mean, I have like two of that, three people, but right now two people I'm working with. I mean, I take this world seriously because I know what it's like to go down into that spiral. I really do. And so if you're in it, the first thing is to just like let those who are close to you know you're in it so they can support you and help you. It's very hard to see yourself as a divine, awesome being when you, especially if there's depression or anything, anxiety around, in the soup as well. And so it depends where you are in that spectrum. I think if it's a really deep depression, definitely get help ASAP.
Yeah.
The other thing is just making a list of all the ways you can be loving to yourself. That's the main aim. There are some days like if all I do is I'm loving to myself, that's a good day. If I can just change the way I see myself, because once you do that, when you change how you see yourself, I mean, everything on the outside is a reflection of the inside. So the more you can see what's inside, focus on where things are going well, focus on what you can appreciate, where are you doing well in life. There's going to be something. So what are your strengths? What are you naturally gifted at? I would do a whole inventory looking at all the wonderful things, the things that you can appreciate. Sometimes that can really really make a shift. And I think that coming back to the heart connection, I do a lot of meditation when I feel like that now. I've guided ones that I've picked out and I love, that are all about reconnecting to your heart, your connection, who you are, your higher self. I kind of say like all hands on deck, whatever you need that's loving and kind that can help you, do it. As long as it's not hurting you or anybody else and it's of your highest good, and it's not overeating or over drinking or overspending, and it feels like it's in alignment with what would be for your higher self, I would say engage in that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And are these meditations that you're just talking about, are they on the Insight Timer app?
Yeah, the Insight Timer app is so funny. This is the one that totally saved my life about 8 years ago. I fell in love with this app. What is just amazing, and this is how I think the universe works when we're in our flow. I had a bunch of meditations I listened to every day, and then started getting into meditations myself. Had no idea. Like I just would do them in my head, and I did it for a couple friends. We were at a business event. We didn't want to drink, so we were sitting outside in the woods, and I was like, oh, I'll just do my meditation. And it was very cool. They resonated and they loved it. And they were like, you got to get that up there. I had no idea you could do that. This is like, 3 years ago. So, I mean, I have a lot of meditations in the audio course, but there are lots of meditation teachers up there who are phenomenal. I mean, I have a couple of them bookmarked. And I just go to theirs. I rarely use my own meditation. I don't always want to hear my voice. I don't know. There's about 6 or 7 teachers that I have their different meditations kind of on hand, and it really does help. It really does help.
Oh, awesome. I would love to actually get that app and do one of your meditations. I think that'd be awesome.
Well, I've done quite a few on self-love. Many. I've done a 7-day self-love and confidence one. I've done another one on connecting to your higher self. Like I just try to put as many out there that I would have wanted and that I want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think self-love is so important. Like
Yeah.
just for people to get into it. And I know like sometimes it's seen as this like, yeah, fluffy thing, but it's at
Yeah.
the core of it, this is like a very deep practice that when you really start to engage in self-love and self-care, it's like, it's so nourishing to your soul. It's like incredible. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well, and I'd say this, the more that we can be connected, if that's a better word for some people, to who you really are, your higher self, the more you're able to give that away and connect with others. It's just the way it works. So that helped me a lot when I couldn't feel it for myself. I said, well, I really do want to be able to love others and be loving and give more away of love and, compassion. And I've seen it. The more I go within and have that, the more that I'm able to be compassionate with others. And I do feel our planet is in need of more compassionate people. So
yes.
connecting with yourself is a great idea to start there, because it starts there. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Starts there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so do you have any other last words of advice for our viewers?
I would just say trust your intuition, trust your gut and heart. if you feel like, excuse me, if you feel like you're in a place of needing support, or, just remember there's nothing wrong with you. No one's broken. We're all, this whole and complete, I think we're all part of the same divine stuff. So if you're, trust your heart, your gut, your intuition, trust your inner wisdom. I've done most everything that way. And it's never steered me wrong, whatever that might be, whether it's making a food choice or not making a food choice, whether it's connecting with someone to support you, or finding that right coach or healer or person to help you, or whatever it is, just trust that. I believe that's our lifeline, our GPS. And I believe that can also lead to a greater, deeper connection to your own heart.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so, so much for being here, for taking the time to actually have this conversation. I know that there is so much happening in your life right now, and for you to take out the time, it's just such an honor for me. And yeah, thank you. And for those of you who are watching, you can find Julie at juliereisler.com. And also, do take the time to go and listen to her amazing podcast, The US You. So you're going to love her. This is like, I have known you, Julie, for a few years now, and I've like every single conversation that I have with you, I am always, left feeling so enlivened. And that's been my experience from day one. So, well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone who's tuning in or watching or listening or whatever just gets, I hope that you get something that reminds you of who you really are, and whatever that is. If everyone tuning in could get like a little reminder of how awesome they are, and heart-centered / their higher self, get a sense of that, then I'd be thrilled. So, and thank you. You're amazing. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much.